What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Centaur. Welcome to the first video of this channel. My name is Jesse and I am so excited to be here with you. This is my first video, so have mercy on me. We will get through this. If at the very least, enjoy the plants behind me and the good vibes. But let's just jump right in. So the reason why I started this page and decided to call this Centaur, well, it was really because of this book right here. Sex, Ecology, Spirituality, The Spirit of Evolution by none other than the man Ken Wilber. This dude is referred to as the Einstein of consciousness, and rightfully so. I mean, I've heard, mixed reviews about him elsewhere, but from everything that I've read, this has probably been one of the most impactful books of my life, and definitely of this year. Now it's 2021, first day of, but being of 2020 and seeing everything that's been going on in the world, this book that was written in 1999 really shares great perspective on what is going on in our society right now, based in the history of evolution of human consciousness. There are different stages of consciousness, which he explores throughout this entire book. And one of them being the centauric stage of consciousness, which isn't the highest. There are higher stages like subtle and casual. But as far as what's going on in our society today, what we're seeing, where we're seeing the next evolution, at least the desired next evolution, because the only other real choice is, extinction and chaos. But, I'm an optimist. I like to stay on the positive side. So I'm here in full support of whatever that next evolution is. If you look at a centaur, what is it? It's a combination of man and animal, of body and mind, of human and earth, or it can also be referred to as the noosphere and the biosphere. And basically, what this is an integration. It's a symbol of integration of the body and the mind, which, what Ken Wilber proposes is the next evolution of humanity. And so before we dive deep into that, I kind of want to take us back to kind of show where we've been and walk you through the stages of consciousness, so you can see, how this makes sense now, and kind of take a look at your own life, take a look at the world at large, and see how this is actually really playing out in society. So if we were to go all the way back, we could say we started with the archaic stage of consciousness. We were grunts in caves, we wore sexy leopard skin, and our main purpose at the time was really just, we didn't even see ourselves as separate from nature. We weren't humans looking upon the earth. We were the earth. We were fully engrossed in our experience, and most, if not all, of our experience was of reaction, right? We were just essentially reacting to our survival needs. So we were hunting, we were gathering, we were protecting our territory, and the family as a unit really wasn't set up for love and emotions and feelings. It was really just set up as, okay, we need to survive as a species. We're responding to our biological needs. If there was someone outside of our little spot, of our little cave, that came in, they were simply there to take over our territory because they needed space, and we were there to fight them off so we can hold down our space, simply for survival needs. So that is, in a nutshell, what the archaic stage was. Then we move forward to the magic stage, and the magic stage was basically when humans started to make sense of the world and noticed that they were dependent on their surroundings. So this is the sort of first stages of dissociation from their environment. So yeah, to backtrack, archaic was full in dissociation. You weren't able to see yourself outside of it, but now stepping into the magic stage, this is when we started to see small tribes form, Because if you were on my land, you had the same deep reverence for the land, you believed in the same rituals and experiences, and you gave the same offerings to the sun god or the water god, or the water spirit, or the earth spirit, and you saw your surroundings as God. So there was God in everything around you. Again, this is this is back to tribalism. This is back to animism, and that was sort of the first stage of dissociation. Then we started to move into the mythological stage, and this is where you had your empires, you had your first real signs of civilization. Because what happened there was, now at the magic stage, we were bonded by our piece of land or our tribe, but anyone outside of us, we weren't fucking with you. And so basically the need to evolve started to increase, and there's different theories as to why that exists, and what it is. I choose to believe that God just wants to play with himself or herself, and so he wanted to, or she wanted to expand its grasp and sort of mix of beings together. And to move on to the mythological stage, well, now it didn't matter if we were necessarily from the same plot of land or from the same soil, but if me and you both believed in Jesus Christ, or me and you both believed in the Prophet Muhammad, well, now we're brothers, now we're sisters, and now we can get along and coalesce into larger groups and start bringing bigger and bigger, start joining tribes together under this one roof of this God that's not within our land or within our plants, but a God that's above, a God that is outside of this perceivable reality. And this, like I said, this started to bring in empires and kings and queens and churches and religions. This started at the mythological stage. And why do they call it the mythological stage? Because this is where religion was taken literally, meaning that if you read that Jesus walked on water, that wasn't a symbol for anything. That wasn't that didn't mean something. There wasn't anything deeper to it. It was literally that Jesus walked on water, or Moses really split the Red Sea, and that's just, it was what it was. And so now that we were able to further technology, because we had more people working together and people from different backgrounds having coming together and building new ideas, it was awesome. But then at the same front, we saw that now God was above everything else, and so we could treat everything else as lesser than, and including other humans. And if you didn't believe in the same God that I believed in, well, that was a problem. And basically, we saw the repercussions of that. We saw the wars. We saw the pillaging across nations, simply because we believed in seemingly different gods. Then we moved on to the rational stage, and what the rational stage was basically when someone finally went, well, did Moses really split the Red Sea, or was that a symbol for something else? Did that mean something else? Is God really real? How do we know that? How can we prove that? What does that mean? And this is basically once we started to see people really question these gods and goddesses and these stories and these religious texts that were taken simply as fact before. Now we started to see people ask, well, is that really how that happened? Is that really how that went down? And this is where we started to see the birth of science. This is where we started to see the questioning of the church. And just like with every stage of evolution, you would see different stages. And let me be clear, I'm not saying that religion is at a lesser stage than science or rationality. It is simply that the way these things are interpreted and perceived, the perception has different levels of hierarchy. And so religion can be deeply spiritual, or it can be deeply archaic, depending on how you're viewing it. So I just wanted to make that clarification in case, I'm sure there are plenty of people out there who are Christian, who are, Muslim, so be it, and deeply spiritual and deeply evolved. And you can have the vice versa. And same thing with science. There can be deeply evolved beings within the science realm, but then, there can be deeply archaic, like we see playing out in our society today. And we started to search for new ways to explain the way the world is working. And this, again, was beneficial because this increased production, this increased technology, and now even greater numbers of people were able to coalesce, because it mattered even less to what tribe or to what religion you belong to, and what mattered more was your competence and your ability to create and to manifest things on the planet. So it didn't matter whether you were Muslim or Christian or Buddhist. It only mattered if you had the right skills or the right, and not just from a work perspective, but even from a friendship, emotional perspective. If we connected deeply and we were able to find resonance with one another, and that's mainly where we've been for, I'd say maybe the last 100 years, maybe 300 years, we've been much more at the rational stage. And in some ways that's been great, because we've seen, like I said, higher production. We've seen, and this isn't across the board, like if you look around the world, you can see that different countries and different even continents and different places within a state or within a city those groups can live at different stages of consciousness. But I'm assuming if you're watching this, you're most likely from the United States, or you're most likely living in the first world, and most people in that idea are at the rational stage of consciousness. And so even though we see this up-leveling in production, this up-leveling in coalescing of different beings from completely different backgrounds, one of the tropes of the rational stage is our disconnection. So our such extreme dissociation from the earth, from the planet, from God. If you wanted to put an archetype to the negative outcomes of the rational stage, it's your tight-ass scientist who only believes things if he can see it on paper, or he can see it with his eyes, or your typical businessman who doesn't care about the repercussions of his actions on the planet. It's just what's the most efficient thing to do, what's going to help with the bottom line, yada yada yada. And that's what we're seeing right now. We're seeing, you look at 2020, you look at the repercussions that have happened on businesses, on industry, the way we value money, the way we value other people's lives, the way we value the planet, all the problems we're experiencing with climate change, the loss of insects, the poor farming practices. It's all in the name of efficiency. It's all in the name of, well, what is the fastest step to short-term improvement, and does it make sense? As long as it makes sense, as long as whatever as long as you can rationalize your decisions, then they make sense. But now what we're starting to see, and partially can be explained for the chaos that's occurring in our world, is this evolutionary step between the rational and the centauric stage. And so what's possible at the centauric stage of evolution, the centauric stage of consciousness, is now we'll be able to see the integration of body and mind, or of human and earth, or even our own bodies and mind. You think about how much the wellness industry and the health industry has exploded over the last 2 decades, and how many more people are interested in meditation, how many more people are seeing that it's not enough to just make a lot of money to feel good in our lives, or to be successful, and what does success even mean, and why are so many people interested in organic foods now? Why are so many more people interested in alternative forms of medicine? Is because people are starting to see the connection between the way that they feel in their mind is highly dependent on the way they feel in their body, and is also highly dependent on the environment that they're in. And at the Centauric stage, we now have a deep reverence and respect for our bodies, for our planet, and the integration of both. And you are able to now start bridging connections from different people's views, and your compassion for others and yourself grows immensely. Short story not so short is that inspired me to create this page, create this blog, vlog, however you want to perceive it, create this coaching service, is because with all the things I've been learning over the last few years, that I find myself at this point integrating the mythical, integrating the rational stage, and coming into this Centaur self way of being, with glimpses of subtle and casual, and you can explore that and explore those meanings in your own time, and I'm sure that we'll dig into them as well. But at the Centaur level is really the next stage of society if we want to move forward. If we could have more people living at the Centauric stage of consciousness, we would have a much higher capacity for compassion for the earth, for each other. We'd be able, our health would improve immensely, because we'd become aware of our bodies and what they need. And so, not to make this video too long, but basically that is why I've come here introducing Centaur Well. You'll be seeing a lot more blogs and vlogs from me. Go check out Ken Wilber's book if you're interested. One of the best books I've ever read. I can't recommend it enough. So that's all for now. Again, if you like this video, hit subscribe if you want to join this journey with me. Like I said, this is my first video, so it might be a little choppy, but it is what it is. You got to start somewhere. Thanks for tuning in. Thanks for giving this video a look. If you like it, give it a thumbs up, maybe leave a comment. And if you can share it with a friend or a loved one, by all means, go do that. You can find me on Instagram at Jesse the Centaur. You can also visit my website and check out my coaching services at centaurwell.com. And as always, you can check out the Ruben and Jesse podcast. We're on Spotify, we're on Stitcher, we're on Apple Podcasts, and go check out, listen to our conversations. And happy 2021. It's going to be a magical ride. I know that for sure, and I'm happy to be here and serve you guys. So until next time, thanks for tuning in. Peace.